I'm excited to find out what big move Donald Trump makes next. So here is Trump. He has taken this unbelievable savagery from the left, but he's beaten them. He's 2-0 in the whole impeachment process. Yeah, they've impeached him twice and they failed twice. That's also going to go down in history. 2 strikes and both times they didn't succeed. Now, it's important for Trump to figure out the right move next. And of course, lots of people are coming up with ideas, and I have my own, about what Trump should do in the short and the medium term. Trump himself has said that the MAGA movement is, quote, only just begun. And he goes that in the coming weeks and months, he will have much to share with us. One sign of Trump's continuing popularity, he went golfing in Florida, and then as he was heading back from West Palm Beach, massive crowd. I mean, unbelievable crowd when you consider this is a guy out of office. He's a private citizen. But a huge crowd mobilizes to support him with signs, jubilant, screaming. And this shows you that Trump remains a potent force on the right and in the Republican Party. I'm not sure if McConnell recognizes that, but he is a Lilliputian figure compared to Trump. Now, what should Trump do? Steve Bannon, former White House advisor, thinks that Trump should make himself Speaker of the House. In other words, lead a movement to take back the House in 2022, get elected Speaker himself, and then impeach Biden. So this to me is, this would be fantastic. This is very much Bannon's kind of strategic Machiavellianism. I consider this unlikely, but it is fun to think about. A second option, I'm going to call this the Lindsey Graham option, is that Trump mobilizes with the Republican Party to win back both houses of Congress. I think Graham is hoping for this one. And Graham goes, he's ready to move on and rebuild the Republican Party. He's excited about 2022. And 2022 does have real opportunities. And Trump, of course, would need to recognize that the solution here is not to attack the Republican Party. It's certainly not to create a new party, a patriot party, a MAGA party. That's the one thing that Trump must not do. And I don't think he's dumb enough to do it. Why? Because if he did it, it would split the conservative vote into 2. It would even make red states competitive for the Democrats. Why? Because the vote would be divided between the Patriot Party and the Republican Party, and that would be very bad news for all of us. I don't think Trump's going to do that. But is Trump feeling like he can embrace the Republican Party, take over the Republican Party, so to speak? That's a real option for him. Now, there is a way to do that. The way to do that is for Trump to embrace MAGA candidates and run against some of the guys, some of the 7 guys that voted against him on impeachment in the Senate. And there are others in the House, 10 or so of them. Now, the formula here is for Trump to target Republican defectors in safe districts. So people like Murkowski in Alaska. Or somebody like Ben Sass in Nebraska, even Romney in Utah. Why? Because if you knock off these guys and have another Republican, that guy is going to win. It's like Tuberville. Tuberville won pretty easily, and he won because it was a red state. Now, much more dicey is to target a Susan Collins in Maine. Why? Because, yeah, you can replace her with a MAGA candidate, but can that candidate win the general election? My guess is probably not. So my advice, leave Susan Collins alone. Focus on the other candidates. Now, apart from this electoral politics, there are a couple of other options available to Trump that are worth considering. Trump has actually ruminated, there have been some reports about this, about starting his own social media platforms. So maybe a platform to compete with Facebook or YouTube. I know Trump would like to take his revenge on Twitter because he loved Twitter. Twitter was almost like an extension of his personality. You'd almost say the personality of Twitter itself has been shaped by Trump, and yet Trump is a very striking absence on Twitter. It's almost like his presence still hovers over Twitter. And I know Trump would like to teach Twitter a lesson. But all that being said, I'm not sure if that's the best way for Trump to go. Trump might do better just to steer people to alternative platforms. Gab and CloudHub and Parler and Rumble and so many others that are popping up, some better than others. Some of them, Parler is still making its way back. But the bottom line of it is the infrastructure will be there. Trump doesn't need to necessarily build it from scratch. One idea I discussed with Trump myself, my family had a meeting with Trump in November of 19, and oddly enough, he asked me what he should do after the presidency. I obviously assumed it would be after 2 terms, but I suggested to Trump, I said, hey, Mr. President, you should start a network. And I had in mind not so much a kind of cable show, not talk radio on TV, but rather a kind of lifestyle network, more like CBS or ABC or NBC, a network that has stand-up comedy and movies and news and analysis and a show, let's say, parallel to The View and reality shows, the whole gamut. Trump is totally in a position to do that. He's got money, he's got the connections, he's got a massive following that would make up the customers, the viewers of that network. And this network would pay great dividends for our side. We sorely need it. We feel the absence of it. The other side can gang up on us because we don't have a megaphone as big as they do. This would be a megaphone probably bigger than anything they have. So I don't think that this option, the starting of a network, is inconsistent with Trump running again in 2024 or inconsistent with Trump working to elect Republicans. You could do one and the other. You can do the network now, build it out, have the Trump family sort of move into it, and Trump could then leave his options open for what he wants to do in 2022 or 2024. Bottom line, Trump has a wide vista of possibilities ahead. He remains a potent force, almost a force of nature in the Republican Party. Most Republicans' loyalty is to, I won't say necessarily just Trump the man, but what Trump represents, the Trumpian ideology, the Trumpian spirit. That is the future of the party, and I think it will also prove to be the future of the nation.